Actually, we're on the website.
Good morning and welcome to the Being Your Own CEO Success Circle. This is a support intended especially for solopreneurs. And this morning we're going to be looking at the topic of leaders and leadership. So we have something kind of planned that may take us a bit of time. So this morning I shall go back to introducing so that we can shorten the time that we spend on our introductions. So I'll just go down through my list. David Flannery is here from Illinois, and he creates affordable websites for small business. So welcome, David. And then we have Fred Jones, who is here in British Columbia, up near Ladysmith, and he facilitates leadership and community building for youth. And we have Nathan Siegel, who is here from Mexico, and he works as a copywriter, focusing on salesmanship print. And there is myself, Lowell Ann Fuglsang, and I work with retirees who would like to create an online business. And later on, I may have an announcement to make, but right now is not the time to do it. So welcome everybody. Happy that you are here. And we were going to talk about leaders and leadership. Boy, in this world we're living in right now, that seems to be a really important issue these days. But I don't want to go. I don't want to go to the political place. So, but before we get into our discussion, I just want to recognize that Javita is out there on YouTube, I guess, and she's been a member of our group for some time, and she's in Mumbai, India. And the other thing that I would like to say, there were two people who signed up, two members of Wealthy Affiliate, I think, Matthew and Tondani. So if you're out there listening, I do want to welcome you both, and hopefully as you view our proceedings, you at some point may like to participate live in a Zoom with us. You would be most welcome. Okay, I think I got our housekeeping out of the way. So let's think about leaders and leadership. I guess an interesting place to begin would be to say, how do we define leadership? What is a good leader? Does anybody got a definition? It doesn't need to be an academic definition, but perhaps your own experience of a good leader. So,
as per Simon Sinek, a leader has to have one main thing: followers.
I suppose that's very true.
Yeah. Because it is the followers who recognize someone as their leader. So,
Right. Okay. So that's one really good. And before we go on, I just want to welcome Paul. Paul is in my neighborhood, actually, Paul Murray. And he's been a kind of a mentor of mine for a lot of years, it seems. Eh, Paul? We met together in an old organization that is no longer there.
as hard as we tried to keep it going.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
Clearly, you.
So while you're unmuted, Paul, if somebody asked you what is a leader, how would you answer that?
I, I think it's very simple. Someone who has an idea and can create a following.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so an idea and a following. Okay, what makes a good leader?
I think a good leader has to have the passion for the idea and the ability to listen to the people that are following, to engage them in that idea.
Okay, so listening and engaging, right. Anybody else have anything they would like to add to that? Yep. I knew you. I knew you would have something to say about leaders. Go ahead, Fred.
Well, when Vivek mentioned Simon Sinek, it reminded me of the definition that I think I mentioned the other day. But also, this particular definition isn't, Simon says it, but so did a lot of other people, including Dolly Parton has been quoted as saying it, and John Quincy Adams has been quoted as saying it. No one really knows who it says, and it's very simple, but I think very powerful. You're a leader if your actions enable people to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and become more.
Uh-huh.
You're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that very powerful. In fact, when I went to Portugal last year in September, I was asked to speak about leadership. Mm-hmm. And I encouraged everyone to do that with even one person. If you can just take one person and you can help them dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you're a leader, even if it's just one person. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a wonderful definition.
Yes, I think it is too, because we, and I guess I was going to like try to simplify that a little bit, as Vivek and I were chatting as we were preparing for this morning. And by the way, Vivek has a presentation ready for us that I think you'll enjoy. But I guess what I was saying was being a leader versus doing leadership. And we all know some people who are a leader that just by their very being, and there are others who claim to be doing it. So we thought that was kind of an interesting distinction that we made. So and I think that I think we all can remember, all of us who've ever worked in a big company or a company. I know I remember this from when I was working for government, is that there were people who had a huge positive impact on me, that were leaders, and it was not, I guess it's another way to say it is not a title. It's not necessarily a title. It's a way of being. And however, I did hear a title mentioned by somebody. I don't know who, because I've watched quite a bit about leadership in the last little while. Somebody talked about the Chief Visionary Officer. And I thought that was kind of an interesting title. So, but
in fact, in one of his talks, Simon Sinek says that rather than having chief executive officers of a company, they should have chief visionary officer.
Okay, maybe it was Simon Sinek then, but I found that kind of neat to think about it from that perspective. So so we thought, I mean, there's a few things that we wanted to kind of look at. One of them was, what is the difference between a leader and a manager, for example? Is there a difference? Is there a difference? And you know, those are titles that get assigned to people, etc. And so, you know, how do we know the difference? And let me see, what was the other piece that we were thinking about was, oh, how to recognize a leader, and also for us to think about leadership from a solopreneur perspective. So Vivek has a presentation to share, but just before we go there, does anybody else have 2 cents that they would like to throw in from their own experience? David.
Well, I found that a good leader will empower his people to do what needs to be done and not try to do everything for them.
Aha.
If you get a better result when you're leading people, if you let them do their job and just make sure that they're doing it and help them when they need help and not micromanage and
yeah, micromanaging is
yes.
That's a manager who has taken it to the extreme. Yeah. Nathan, you any experience with leaders or whatever before we start the presentation?
Well, the only thing that really comes to mind is something that happened a long time ago, where I was dealing with a racism problem as a student. And I remember going to the dean about it of the school. He sent me back to the department head, so I spoke with him. But then the teacher who was causing the problem for me pulled me into a confrontation and tried to goad me into a fist fight. Luckily, I didn't fall for it, otherwise I would have wound up in jail. But after that, I was in the classroom and I was really angry. And I was waiting for the class to end because I was going to go to the dean again. The department head walked in and he asked, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Not good." And he asked why, and I told him. He said, "I'll take care of it." And he did, and I never had a problem again.
So he was a good leader.
Yeah, he had the power. He was not afraid to use it, and he took this guy who was a major troublemaker and put him in his place and stopped the problem. It never happened again.
Oh, yeah. So, by the way, Javita says a leader has a positive impact on their followers' lives. And also there is Matthew who says good morning. So I'm happy that you're out there, Matthew. I don't know whether you heard me introduce the fact that I thought you might be there. So I'm glad you made it. So, yeah. So in a kind of a way, I guess we realize that leaders and managers can be all in one person. I mean, that would be the ideal, wouldn't it? But and as we think about being solopreneurs, I like Javita's definition that as solopreneurs we can be leaders and have an impact on people even as a solopreneur. Oh, there's Matthew saying thanks. I was running a tad late this morning. Oh well, but I'm glad you made it, Matthew. Okay, so are you ready to share your screen, Vivek? You're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, I am ready. Yes. I hope everybody can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Namaste. Here is a short presentation where I begin with a short list of differences between a leader and a manager, followed by a list of qualities of a leader as defined by thought leaders like Simon Sinek, Brennan Brown, and I will conclude with an example of a leader, Sadhguru. I shall give plenty of links and references. As you can see in this slide, I am putting solopreneur in between leader and manager because, in my opinion, that is where solopreneur is. Let me begin with the most striking differences. A leader has a vision and it is a much broader one, whereas a manager thinks only about the organization that he or she is in at the moment. A leader always thinks about what could be. He or she thinks about all the possibilities, whereas the manager is concerned only with what is in the present. A leader is concerned about aligning with the greater cause than themselves, whereas the manager is concerned with assignment. A leader makes sure that things happen with or without being present, whereas the manager is concerned about making things happen only when he or she is around. Because of the way a leader operates, he or she tends to have a life, whereas a manager is more of a control freak and hence hardly has a life.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because, if we think about ourselves as solopreneurs, in a kind of a way, aren't we? We are both a leader and a manager.
Mm-hmm.
And so does that mean that as a solopreneur, I have no life?
It depends how much of
Yeah.
I would say it depends how much of a manager you are and how much of a leader you are.
So, as a solopreneur, as solopreneurs, we walk a fine line, don't we?
Yeah.
Between those two, I guess you would call them roles. Those two roles.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I just had to bring that solopreneur thing in there.
Yep.
Go ahead.
A solopreneur has a life that they choose.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Aha, thank you, Paul. You are so correct.
So here is an image which shows the stark difference between the way they operate. A leader leads by example. A leader would do exactly what he or she expects others to do. A leader pretty much says, do as I do. A manager, on the other hand, does not feel that he or she is part of the team. A manager directs others to do what he or she wants them to do. A manager pretty much says, do as I say. And a manager would get very annoyed if anyone questions what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So Let me point out to you that a solopreneur has to be a bit of both, a leader and a manager. In my view, he or she must be more of a leader and less of a manager. A business has to be managed, so a manager. But it is their leadership capability which determines how far the business grows. Simon Sinek has been one of my inspirations. Here I present 10 rules for success as he presents them in multiple lectures. What you see here is a screen capture from a compilation done by a Mr. Evan Carmichael. I am putting the link to the YouTube compilation video in the comments later on. You would be able to find that in Lowell's website, I think. So let me briefly go over the 10 rules. He says number one is break the rules, but not the law. Train your mind and reframe what you presently see as negative to be positive. Be patient. Good things don't happen overnight. Take accountability. You can't have credit for results while refusing to take blame for failures. Outdo yourself. Don't worry about external competition. You just concern yourself with improving yourself. In the video, he actually gives Microsoft versus Apple example. Stack the deck. He says, be around with people who believe in what you believe in. That's the way to stack the deck in your favor. So, and then seventh one is be the last to speak. As a leader, you would speak last. You leave it open, let everyone else speak, and then you speak. Eighth one is be authentic. Say and do the things that you believe in. Find your passion. Passion is not an actionable word. He keeps saying that passion is not an actionable word. Passion is a result.
Or a quality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Start with why. Well, Simon has written a whole book about this. So I suggest you buy that book and read it. So,
But Vivek, didn't we, when we were going through this, didn't we decide that the stuff was in the wrong order?
yes, this is the order that
Evan. Yeah.
Evan has put them together. But that's the order he has compiled them. So if you see the video, it goes in the same sequence. So I don't know why he has done that, but anyway, that's his. I mean, we both came to think that the 10th one, the whole, more or less, the whole order should be reversed.
Yeah.
10th one should be the first one. 9th one should be the second
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
and so on. So, yeah, that's about Simon Sinek. I'll put the link to the compilation of. He picks up from multiple Simon Sinek videos and has created another video. So.
Right.
This is Dr. Brennan Brown. She's another very popular researcher. Her TED Talks also has had millions of views. Her research focuses on authentic leadership, and wholeheartedness. In a YouTube compilation, again, the link I will be putting in the comments later on, she says, when perfectionism is driving, shame is always riding shotgun, and fear is the annoying backseat driver. Those are the exact words she says in, you can see that in the video. She also says, true belonging is a spiritual practice, and it's about the ability to find sacredness in both being a part of something, but also the courage to stand alone. She says, once you overcome your own resistance to wilderness, you find it hard to fit back into the ordinary. She says, if you need me to be someone different than who I am, it's not going to be successful.
So Vivek, we did have a conversation about what is the wilderness, didn't we?
Yeah, the wilderness is when you think out of the box, it feels like you're getting into the wilderness, and you're doing something which no one else has done, and so is it right? Is it wrong? But unless you are brave enough to get into that wilderness and get to the other side, you're not going to be a leader. Then when she talks about get rid of negativity, she actually talks about ignoring comments on social media when they are made by people who don't even identify themselves clearly. It's like you may get comments on YouTube or wherever. People don't even identify themselves. They remain anonymous, or they have some strange name which doesn't relate to anything sensible, and they make negative comments. So she says, ignore them.
Yeah, nothing authentic about that way of doing things, right?
So if they are negative and anonymous, they don't deserve a response. That's what she says.
Are you going to talk about what she said about vulnerability? Because you sent me a link to her session on that, and that was the one of the most powerful things I think I've watched in a long time.
Yeah, that's the fifth point here.
Yeah.
In fact, in this compilation, I think he brings out part of that talk. Most people think vulnerability is to be avoided, and we need to put up a armor. That's what
Yeah.
she says. Don't armor up, because vulnerability, being vulnerable, takes you to new places, new things, creativity, inventions, wilderness, all of that.
Wow. She's quite her presentations. I found her presentation very inspiring, but also with quite an amount of humor. Yeah, it was quite enjoyable, actually.
So, as an example of a leader, let me talk about Sadhguru. Sadhguru is a popular yogi who started the Isha Foundation, a spiritual organization which has millions of followers all over the world. he recently started a month-long mission called Rally for Rivers in India. He gathered supporters as he traversed 16 different states of India, and he inspired over 160 million people, 160 million people to voice their concern about the country's rivers. So I consider him to be a successful leader. Let me share some of his thoughts. Sadhguru says, being a leader does not mean dominating the situation. It means empowering people to do what they would not have imagined possible. By this, he means a leader recognizes the potential in others and creates an environment where they are able to grow to their full potential. This is a photo of Sadhguru when he led a rally riding on a motorcycle across the banks of the river Kaveri, starting from its origin till it reaches the sea. He says, unless a leader displays an infectious level of inspiration, sloth and inertia will prevail. As shown by this photo, he is being an example himself. Llewellyn, you wanted to say something?
No, it's okay. I was, I've lost it. There was something that occurred to me, but I do love this picture because you see all the people that are in the background that are in there, and you know, the first picture of Sadhguru, you know, giving a presentation with his traditional dress and so forth, and then you see this is such a contrast, and I guess you could probably say that here's an example of Sadhguru going into the wilderness, sort of you know, going doing something totally outside what you would normally expect. So
Yep.
I think it's a great picture that demonstrates that. Yeah.
Sadhguru says, as a leader, your every thought, emotion, and action impacts many lives. It's extremely important to work on how you are within yourself. I have a few couple of links to YouTube videos where he explains how to work on yourself. So those links I shall put in the comments later on.
So that goes back to the whole concept of who you are, being a leader. You know, unless unless we've worked on all our own issues, how can we help other people work on theirs, right? Yeah, and as solopreneurs, that we're the ones that are putting ourselves out there to help others do various things, and so we need to take care of ourselves. Yeah.
A leader needs to build trust. So Sadhguru says, as a leader, you build trust when you give yourself 100%, so that people understand with your every action you stand for them.
I would add with them as well, for them and with them.
Yeah. So as I did with Simon Sinek and Brennan Brown, here are 10 rules for success as compiled by Mr. Evan Carmichael. Again, there will be a link to the YouTube compilation. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this presentation.
Oh, go back a slide. I wanna see. I didn't get a chance to look at it. Take charge of your life, conscious of your mortality. Take a holiday from seriousness. Now that's something that Sadhguru does. I found a lot of his presentations have lots of humor. Okay, there it is. Produce nice movies. You need to explain that, because if you haven't sort of watched or listened to Sadhguru, that wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. So, can you explain that one?
Yeah, it's we as humans have a lot of memory and a lot of imagination. So we, depending on the memory that we have had, we tend to imagine how the future is going to be. So in our mind, we kind of create a movie of how it's going to be. So he says, create a nice one.
Yeah, right. That is so typical of his humor as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Down at the end, number 10, have a sense of humor. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul has a question, I think.
Oh, because I can't
Can
see
you
her.
elaborate on number 6?
That is a bit of, that goes into deeper into spirituality and so on. Don't identify, because that also is one of the main things, spiritual thinking. Don't identify yourself with anything, or put it the other way, everything. You are everything. Which also means you're not particularly identified with anything specific. So yeah, you would need to at least watch the compilation, which is not a long one. So in the compilation, he picks a few minutes of each, and so he
And so you get to see what his words are.
yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, so that's my presentation. Thank you so much for being with me today. So hope it has been of some use. Namaste.
Paul is clapping. I think maybe David was too. I have to say that yes.
Fred.
Yesterday, Vivek and I had a conversation. We went through that, and we had a nice conversation, sort of exploring all of that. So, for anybody who would like to go and view the compilations that Vivek presented, I will have links to those on the website. Oh, I see there's a message from Alana. I think managers look at the big picture of what their team need to accomplish within the mission of a larger organization. A leader also motivates and trusts their team to do their job. My 2 cents, she says. Right. Yeah. Well, I think my definition, between the two, manager and a leader, I sort of thought a manager is operational, a leader is inspirational. Those are those are the ways that I was able to define it. Yeah. So now I'm looking at I knew we were going to go over because because the number of slides, but I'm just wondering whether, having watched and listened to the presentation, whether there are any further comments from the members on the panel here. Anything come up, Fred?
If I may, I always enjoy and I appreciate the time and effort you put into that, Vivek, and you know, and especially with the solopreneur. One thing that I would like to add is, okay, these are the elements of leaders, and there are so many. There's millions of books written about leadership, and we explain these are the characteristics of a leader. But the question is, how do we become a leader? And I have a short formula that I'd like to share with you. If you start with this formula, it can take you a long way. And it consists of 3 words: well, better, and best. And whenever you meet with anyone, if it's one person or a group or in a meeting, and at the end of that, or well, in the meeting, often with the young people, I ask them, what went well during the meeting? And they can input. What could we have done better? And what was the best thing that happened in the meeting? When I meet with someone on a one-to-one basis and we're mentoring and we both share, we say, and let's say it's been a week, what went well this week? What I want to share with you that went well? But what didn't go as well? What could we do better? And what was the best thing that happened that I'm excited about? And that formula can take you enormous way in leadership as well. If you have a group of people say, we're working on something, so what went well? Let's share all the good news. Oh, but what didn't go as well as we thought? What could we have done better? What do we want to work on now? But what was the best exciting thing we want to celebrate and shout off the top of the mountain? Those 3 words is a great way on how you can practice leadership with one person or 160 million people if you're Sadhguru. And I think that is something that's worth mentioning, because we all can find out, oh, I want to be a leader. I've got to work on myself. Even if you want to look on yourself, say, I want to analyze what I did this week. What went well this week? I do this every week anyway. It's a formula I use. At the end, I could show you my book. For last week, I've written well, better, and best. What went well last week? So even on myself, I use the same formula. It's amazing formula, those 3 words. So I just have to share that because it can take you so far in the leadership world and on your personal leading yourself.
What a great place to sum up what we've been talking about, Fred. So, there is Paul. He's done a thumbs up for your comments there. So I'm looking at the comments in the on the YouTube comments. Right. Okay. So we are 15 minutes over. We which sometimes try to aim for 30 minutes. This was we used to do an hour long, and then we talked about how we might change things up a little bit. And I'm going to explain this briefly, I hope, for the benefit of Matthew, who is new. What happens normally, or what we've been trying to do, is record for 30 minutes, and then stay in the group where we share our discoveries with one another, and discuss the benefits of discoveries that we've made, and sharing and supporting, and so it becomes a little bit more of a a networking experience. So that was our decision some time ago. Now we decided that it would be a good idea to limit our recording. But as I say, I knew this morning would be longer than 30 minutes. So so again, Vivek, I want to thank you so much for your efforts. I truly and thoroughly enjoyed the background of what you shared as well, because you shared those with me ahead of time, and those were, I found, extremely worth watching. So thank you so much
You're welcome.
for your effort. That was really inspiring. So given that we are so over, I usually like to remind people that it's important to do what you love with passion. And for those who are out there and who would like to continue on with us and perhaps come in, hopefully we can stay in touch and see how that goes. Next week's topic is how to discover what you want. So that's another another really heavy duty topic. It's interesting that we seem to have kind of moved into these concepts, and I think it's probably because of what's going on in the world right now. A lot of our early days, we shared technology, our technological discoveries, etc. But since we're all home and struggling with the world that's going on around us, we seem to have moved somewhat into the philosophical area. So, but I do hope that we'll see everybody again next week. And so bye for now, and see you next week. So now I need to end the recording. Oh.